Another game week has passed in Sky Bet League One. I'm so excited to sit back down and chat about all of the action. Let's begin. Plenty to get into today, as always, but remember, if you do find value from the content, you can subscribe for free. I can tell you, over 60% of the people that watch the podcast aren't yet subscribed. If that's one of you, please make sure you change that. We're trying to get to 10,000 this year, and you could be a real helping hand. Let's begin with the first game at Fratton Park as they hosted Reading. It finishes Portsmouth 4, Reading 1. The XG 0.63 to 0.91. Thank you, Charlie Savage. That's all I'll say. All jokes aside, if you know, you know. Portsmouth goes 6 points clear at the top of Sky Bet League 1. Let's focus on the home side first. At what point can Pompey fans really start to believe? With all of the inconsistency below them, this team just always find a way, it seems. The front four accumulating 6 goal contributions in one game says everything you need to know about the groove this Portsmouth team is in and who can stop them. Reading couldn't yesterday, and so many teams can't stop them and haven't been able to across the campaign so far. Not long to go. 34 down, 12 matches still to play. Something is happening. Let's speak about Reading next. I think 4-1 is a harsh scoreline, to be frank, for Reading and their point of view. It wasn't quite as bad as it suggests. The first Pompey goal actually does disrupt some promising Reading signs in the opening 30 minutes to 45 minutes. The courage and intent to hurt Pompey was there. It's the sucker punch removes the hope. The biggest frustration will be the fact that Pompey never really had to get out of first gear, and to take 4 chances within a blink of an eye, they've killed this game off. From a defensive angle, that has to be looked at in detail in order to improve. When looking at the graph in front of you, brought to you by SofaScore as usual, as mentioned in the introduction, Reading started the game strong. The first 30 minutes could have been so different. It's a better finishing from the away side, and the rest of the game could have gone very literally anywhere. But like so many times this season, this Pompey team have no mercy in front of goal, and in the final third you blink once and they've killed the game off, scoring 4 goals out of nothing. And we've said quite a lot this season when looking at graphs, and Pompey graphs in particular, it's about creating lots of graphs, but dominance. That's how they are related. And there isn't loads in this game, but it's about taking the chances and looking incredible when they get into the attacking third. Statistically, the possession stats don't lie. This Reading team gave Pompey a go. It's the output and sloppy individual mistakes that let them down. I think Button, the goalkeeper for Reading, is at fault for at least 1 goal, maybe 2. The Paddy Lane strike's a really quite powerful one. Getting a hand onto that is difficult, but the second blunder, I think, is a real blunder. Over the 90 minutes, Reading had 57% of the ball and completed 101 more passes than the home side. The intent was there, but you just can't give this Pompey side a sniff, because when you do, well, it can be game defining. You'll be punished, ultimately, and by anyone on the pitch. If you weren't a defender, goalkeeper, or Owen Moxon in that starting 11 for Portsmouth yesterday, you've had at least 1 goal contribution. That's fantastic. Kamara accumulated 3 assists, doubling his tally for the season, whilst Bishop, Lane and Lang kept the front line firing in front of goal. But coming back to that stat, I think Tom said it on T-Lop, and I've definitely stolen it from him, but it's a great metric. If you're not a defender, a goalkeeper, or a defensive midfielder in a double pivot with Marlon Pack, you would have got at least 1 goal contribution yesterday. That says so much about the goals being spread around an entire team. There is no more reliance. When looking at the average positions, this Pompey front four are clicking. The positions are perfect. Look at the spaces. There's a lovely spacing between players, and the best talent is in their most effective positions. Lane cutting in slightly more narrow. Kamara using his brilliant 1v1 ability, dribbling ability to create and take players on slightly wider. That's now 29 goal involvements coming from the wide men so far this season. Tom mentioned it on T-Lop earlier. Why are so many goals coming from the likes of Paddy Lane and Abu Kamara this season? The reliance on Kobe Bishop, I think, now is being swept under the carpet, and that's absolutely fine. Sometimes that can be a negative thing, but I think maybe taking that pressure away from Bishop and saying to him, look, you haven't got to score all of our goals, and you can spread them across a lethal front three. That's a fantastic trait to have in a team, and the best teams are able to do that. The biggest reason is Pompey's desire to have the wide forwards shoot on sight and go direct on goal. Paddy Lane has mastered that trait this season. Go and watch his recent goals. He doesn't even think about it. It's one touch, smash. Did it last week. He did it again for his goal yesterday. It's one touch, output on goal. That's his 11th of the season he scored yesterday. He is on fire, but it's a really important point. There are so many goals and goal involvements coming from the wide areas. They're not really wingers. They're actually wide forwards. When looking at key players, Abu Kamara was a master of creation yesterday afternoon. He created 3 chances and all of them were converted. A 100% successful dribble ratio too. Every element of his game was top notch. The story of the man's campaign, top notch. Next up, Peterborough 1, Blackpool 2. The non-penalty XG 0.88 to 1.54. The posh crumble continues. That's now 4 straight League One defeats, this time at the hands of Blackpool. Let's touch on Peterborough first. This is a posh team that looked totally unrecognisable to the one competing at the start of the year. Every ounce of confidence has disappeared so quickly, within a blink of an eye. From a team that looked very much on course to challenge the top 2, to an outfit now putting in performances that hardly warrant a top 6 finish, Posh need to revert to that quality quickly. Poku, Mason Clark and Ricky J. Jones all returned to the starting 11. It seems those faces missing weren't always the problem. We mentioned that last week about having those players not in the same 11. Is that a hindrance? Because we know how impactful they've been. They were back, all of them in 1-11 yesterday, with Randall behind them as well. And they still lost and weren't themselves going forward. More on that later. As for Blackpool, a side winless in 4, sitting 14th in the away form table, rocked up to Peterborough and battled their way to 3 points. That's League One for you. This result probably sums up Blackpool's season. Glimpses of a good team with so much inconsistency. Never far from a good result or a bad result. Are their hopes for a playoff finish still alive? The quality has to be shown more often, but yesterday, the proof is there. They can do it. When looking at the graph in front of you, Posh looked back on the right track in the first 45. The second half was well below par though. The difference in attacking output is shown further statistically, but the graph shows the lack of control that we know is so important. When looking at the stats, that electric firepower in the forward area just isn't quite the same at Posh at the moment. From a total of 14 shots, the home side only managed 4 on target. An attack of Randall, Mason Clark, Poku and Ricky J. Jones would have snapped up a handful of goal involvements from that product over the Christmas period. None of them were involved in the goal yesterday, and only one of them had a shot on target. From a Blackpool perspective, the product from less of the ball was game-changing. All big chances created by Neil Critchley's side were scored yesterday. The clinical edge that's crucial in sides winning on the road. With only 258 completed passes, the travelling side accumulated 17 shots and 8 on target, doubling the shots on target number than, of course, their opposition, Peterborough. Now, talking of Posh and delving deep into the reason why things have got quite sour quite quickly there, and the form is pretty concerning, I pose a question. Is the lack of experience in this Peterborough side letting them down? The average age of the starting 11 that played yesterday was 23.7, nearly 4 years younger than Blackpool. The oldest in that team was Jed Steer, the goalkeeper, at 31. Even he hasn't been there all season. The second oldest is Josh Knight, who's 26. Playing with no fear worked wonders in the early stages of the season, and having that young, fearless mentality, like I say, worked extremely effectively. But in times of need, where you've got to look around to a teammate and search for hope or a way back into a game in a battling sense, is there a problem? And is that young team now finding it quite difficult not having more experienced heads around the dressing room and on the pitch when things get ugly? I'm not entirely sure. It's a question. I'm posing it to you. Let me know in the comments down below. The key players are a duo for me, Shane Lavery and Carl Joseph. They were pivotal for Blackpool yesterday. The duo combined to create 3 chances and a combined goal and assist, expected goals of 2.69, the highest out of any other forward line in League One this weekend. That final attacking touch was missing last week. Yesterday, they well and truly stepped up, and I think that's again the story of Blackpool's season. That's the inconsistency of the team as a whole, but also on an individual basis too. But like I said earlier on, there's so much proof in that game yesterday. Yeah, maybe not against the most informed team in the league. They absolutely can do it. Have they left it too late? I don't know. Plenty more games to go. But again, there's proof. The final game in real detail, Bolton 3, Charlton 3, the XG 1.11 to 0.36. More on the expected goals later, because Charlton scoring 3 goals from an XG of 0.36. How do they manage that? We'll touch on it. Nathan Jones picks up his second point as Charlton manager, this time avoiding defeat against promotion chases Bolton. It was a corker of a game. Let's focus on Bolton first. The good, the bad, and the ugly. That's how I describe it from a Bolton perspective. Some of the attacking output was good. To score 3 goals at home against a side that haven't won since November and not win is bad. And some of the defending was pretty ugly. That is the good, the bad, and the ugly. Bolton are not the full package yet. They haven't quite hit that groove and that exceptional run that I think we all expect them to hit. They've been fantastic at times, but sloppy in others. You just don't quite know what you're going to get. They're still in a fantastic position, and some of the attacking play yesterday is phenomenal, and what we expect from a squad and manager of that standard. From a Charlton perspective, Nathan Jones is making everyone believe, with now some evidence too. The man is galvanising every corner of a struggling football club, and when he was appointed, that's exactly what we said he needed to do. Build a connection between fans, players and staff. And look, they haven't won their first game yet, and all 3 points will be needed soon, but glimpses of improvement are creeping into show. The second half against Lincoln was better, and there was dangerous intent, with plenty to be pleased about yesterday as well. Everyone knew this Charlton project wasn't going to be a quick fix, but the small wins, I'll emphasise small wins, in the short term have to be highlighted. More on Thierry Small later. That's not one of my proudest, but it's staying in. Let's take a look at the graph in front of you now. Ian Evatt summed up the game well post-match, I thought. Good in patches, but far too sloppy in others. 3 goals at home should be enough to win a game of football. Charlton's potent edge means they pretty much scored from nothing every time. Let's take a look at the stats, because that point is reinforced. Talk about scoring from nothing. This is the XG breakdown of all 3 of Charlton's goals. Now, expected goals isn't for everyone, but it's a good way of looking at chances and looking at ways chances are good or bad ones to miss or convert. The first was a whipped cross from Thierry Small. That had an XG of 0.01. The second goal from Lloyd Jones, 0.02. And the final one from Kanu was 0.15, giving them a total of 0.36 expected goals. And that's crazy. Really, to score 3 goals from that is unbelievable, but also aside to Charlton's game that's been missing all season, a little bit of luck in the final third, but 0.01, 0.02 and 0.15, 3 goals from that expected goals. That is, again, it's unheard of. The away side also conceded 67% possession, but finished the game with the same number of shots on target. Charlton only didn't score 1 of their efforts on goal. Again, this point can be looked at clearly when taking a look at the shot map. It does sum up the game well. By just looking at those efforts, you probably wouldn't be able to find 6 goals. If I told you this game finished 3-3, you would have laughed at me. Definitely not 3 goals in there for Charlton by looking at the shot map. But again, that's what games of football can do. They can spring surprises. You look at the efforts and, I mean, 3 shots from inside the box weren't scored. 1, of course, was. Other than that, there's not much going on, but they scored 3 goals in there, and that's an element, like I said, to Charlton's game that is going to probably give them any chance in the world. You've got to score goals out of nothing sometimes. Doesn't matter how they go in. And against Lincoln, it was so clear that wasn't going their way. They had chances, and better chances than pretty much all of them that they did score against Bolton yesterday afternoon that wasn't in the back of the net. That's the difference. We're looking at key players. Nathan Jones is still feeling out this Charlton squad. Thierry Small didn't feature in a matchday squad before Bolton. His impact yesterday was crucial. The powerful, strong, athletic left wing-back, of course, who I believe Nathan Jones worked with at Southampton, was a bright spark, and Nathan Jones and his decision worked a treat, making those details really important, building that trust between fans and a manager in the dugout. For Bolton, the dancing feat of Maghoma was so impressive. He accumulated 1 goal, 2 chances created and 4 passes into the final third. And like I said, a quite brilliant strike from some great ability on the ball. So around the grounds we go. We've just spoken about it. Bolton 3, Charlton 3, Carlisle United 0, Cambridge 4. A fantastic result for Neil Harris's side. Is that Carlisle down and out? I think it probably is. Cambridge scoring 4 goals there. Fantastic. Sally Kai, so impressive in that one. Cheltenham 3, Port Vale 2, really important one for the relegation battle down there. Port Vale, Darren Moore's first game back in League One at Port Vale this time. led twice in that game. Cheltenham coming back to win it by 3-2. Derby 1, Stevenage 0, Fleetwood 1, Barnsley 2, Leyton Orient 1, Burton 2, Lincoln 1, Exeter 0, Northampton 3, Bristol Rovers 1, Posh 1, Blackpool 2, Pompey 4, Reading 1, Shrewsbury 0, Wigan 1, and the big one, the big game with lots of goals, lots of excitement. Wycombe 0, Oxford 0. Yeah, it was a tough watch, but go again on Tuesday, don't we? There we go. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did find value, please make sure you leave a like and subscribe. A very special and exciting video coming your way tomorrow as a recording, some special guests, some predictions. Am I giving too much away? I'll shut my mouth because I don't want to spoil it. Some really interesting takes in that one. Until next time, I've been Jack. This has been the Jack Ward Football Podcast, and I will see you all very, very soon. Take care.